Teaching for Excellence, a WYES community forum, made possible by Baptist Community Ministries.
I love watching them have those aha moments and the way they celebrate life. A joyous place to go to work every morning.
Everyone say, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Way to go. Way to go.
What keeps me going every day are those small wins where I help students put a smile on their face because I help them understand something that they didn't understand before.
We are just here to help the students succeed. That's literally all we want to do. Definitely not for the fame and fortune, for sure.
Teachers don't have the luxury of being people on the sidelines watching things happen. We make things happen.
It's a growing challenge for education, recruiting and retaining and training great teachers. In the next hour, we'll examine the problems and potential solutions in Teaching for Excellence, a WYES community forum.
Welcome to the Charlie and Jeanette Cormant Performance Studio at the WYES Paulette and Frank Stewart Innovation Center for Educational Media. Our moderator, WYES Community Projects producer, Marcia Cavanaugh.
And good evening, and thanks so much for joining us for this hour of discussion about how to address Louisiana's need for well-trained teachers. We will hear from our panel of education leaders and also from educators and students in our audience. But first, a look at teacher training. The hours are long, the pay is low, but teachers will tell you the reward of the job of helping students to learn is great. Louisiana is challenged by a shortage of teachers, especially in the field of math and sciences and engineering, foreign languages, and special ed. But aspiring teachers headed from our colleges to careers in the classroom are now more prepared thanks to the training they receive from expert mentors.
The first thing on our agenda is what is sequencing? Who thinks they know what sequencing is?
Destiny Hanno is a senior education major at Southeastern Louisiana University. She is a resident for the entire school year in Bethany Dowdy's kindergarten classroom at Southeastern Lab School.
The collaboration is so wonderful for us to be able to sit down and, two brains are better than one, and work together on how we could make the lesson better, how we could do this better. So I'm not sure that I'm necessarily completely mentoring her as much as we're mentoring each other.
Dowdy is state trained as a mentor teacher, part of the Believe and Prepare program created to improve teacher quality.
That's now the statewide policy. Students who are in college to pursue being a teacher, their senior year is going to be spent under the tutelage of a mentor educator in an authentic school-based experience. They are the teacher.
We're impacting who? The students and yourself.
The curriculum for universities training teachers has also changed to sync with state efforts to boost teacher quality. But the quantity of would-be teachers is down.
There are people saying, you don't want to be a teacher. You don't make enough money. You have to do all of this stuff. It's long hours, long days, no pay. Why would you want to do that?
I still want to do it because the love is there, the love for the students and the passion for teaching them. And I think with any occupation, you need a teacher. You need someone there to guide you, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a lawyer or an engineer or whatever, a teacher got you there, and that's my passion.
The new year-long residency for teachers-to-be is fueling that passion.
They're going to be so prepared to step right in to a job in the teaching profession. When I was in school, which was I graduated in 1992 from college, you did a semester and you started out just sitting back in the back of the room watching your teacher, taking notes, and then after a while you eased into maybe teaching one lesson, until you eventually taught the whole class. But the way it's set up now, we are already co-teaching.
The residency program really prepares you to be a full-time certified teacher. I think Southeastern prepares our teacher candidates very well. And I think when they leave here through the residency program, it's going to make a difference in their lives and in the students they teach.
Well, the state plans to have 2,500 mentor teachers trained by the end of the 2019-2020 school year. Right now, let's introduce our panel. For the chair of the Education for the University of Holy Cross is Dr. Lisa Sullivan. Welcome, Dr. Sullivan. Patrick Dobard, the CEO of New Schools for New Orleans and a former superintendent of the Recovery School District. Dr. Cade Brumley, the superintendent of the Jefferson Parish Public School System. And Kimberly Eckert, the 2018 Louisiana Teacher of the Year. You can see why. She is also the first person awarded the Teacher of the Year Public Interest Fellowship, and her platform is recruiting and training the next generation of educators. And congratulations to you on both of your honors. This
Thank you
is
so much.
the first time where you actually go traveling around to the state. Okay, we'll hear more about that in just a little bit. You know, I wanted to read a quote from Dr. John White, Superintendent of Education, and he said, "There's a teacher shortage in some fields, no question, in mathematics and the sciences and engineering, foreign language, and special education." So let me just quickly ask you guys, sort of, do you agree? Do we have a shortage of teachers, particularly in those fields? You say yes?
Absolutely. In New Orleans alone, we're losing about 900 teachers annually. And so there's definitely a shortage and definitely a need to try to figure out how can we better recruit and retain teachers.
So we just saw a piece about now the changes in the training of teachers. Now they do what we call student teaching. Now it's called residency.
It is.
Used to be just a semester. Now they're in there for a year, and it's now statewide, right? There was a pilot program for a while, and now it's statewide. So let me ask you, Lisa, you're there at the Holy Cross, University of Holy Cross. Are people enrolling in colleges of education?
Not as many people as I would like to see majoring in education. I think that we need to make sure that people understand that teaching is a viable profession. It's an amazing career. So we need to encourage more people to major in education. The numbers are declining, and that's a bit worrisome.
So what then is going to be done? How do we entice people to get into education? What do we do about that? And then that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about as this hour moves on. But universities are, you have a responsibility because you are training these new educators.
That's right.
And now we're coming up with this new, full year of residency. Is that causing schools, the higher ed, to change the way the students who are in the education departments or education colleges are scheduled, the way they have to schedule, their 4 years? Do they have to finish, some basic stuff earlier now?
Absolutely. We've had to make some significant changes. At University of Holy Cross, we've had our students in schools teaching for a year and a half for a very long time. But the first 2 semesters of that was part-time, having the last semester full-time. So we had to tweak our coursework offerings so that those students could be in schools full-time for the whole year, the last 2 semesters. So we were able to move some of their required classes in the curriculum earlier.
So there's some adjustments there then that are happening with this
Right.
whole, putting a student teacher now in there for a year. Let me ask you, do you think that being a mentor teacher, because we have the mentor teachers now working with the student teachers, is that something that's going to help retain teachers?
I think that anytime you could transfer agency to someone and help them feel like they have an even bigger impact and an opportunity to grow themselves beyond that initial pop through college, that's already very powerful. I know I'm part of the mentor program, but even before that, I was a master teacher and instructional coach, and I know how much that empowered me with my own practice. I became such a better teacher in working with other teachers and really trying to understand a lot better what does it look like and what does it look like whenever different ideas kind of converge and come together. And it was a really, really transformative experience for me as a teacher in the classroom. And this is my 11th year. I'm not nearly done yet, and I know that it's because of my relationships and the ability that I've had to be able to kind of cultivate my own talent and do that while also sharing that work with colleagues.
So what I'm hearing from you is that even teachers are learning all the time.
Oh,
You're just
gosh,
always
yes.
sort of evolving and developing. Is the one-year program, the residency program now, you as a school superintendent, does this give you more confidence that when you recruit and bring in the teachers that they will be better trained?
Well, outside of student safety, there's nothing more important than having an effective teacher in the classroom in front of kids. the rubber meets the road in our classroom with our teachers. And the work that we do as administrators and as systems should be about making sure that the teachers have what they need in order to be successful, so that that magical moment can happen called learning between the teacher and the student. I don't think that anyone would argue that more time in a clinical residency would help prepare someone for the classroom. Now, we just touched a little bit earlier, what does this look like in the long term? Well, we don't have enough data to tell us. So I think we just have to still evaluate and see, does this cause more people to go into another profession and seek alternative education, or does it in fact prompt more people to go into education? So we just have to look at the data in the long run.
Okay, one quick point.
I also want to just point this out, that for teachers, there's very few pipelines to progress in the career. So I know for me, I don't really have an interest in being a principal. So I think that like kind of tapping into that talent and showing teachers there's another way. You could stay in your class, you can continue to do this. That's super powerful, that there are other ways to rise through your profession.
All right, well, now we know that teachers need to earn more money. I mean, I think that's something that Superintendent White has said most definitely. The governor now is proposing a pay raise for teachers. And we have someone in the audience right now, Ms. Moe, who is with the Louisiana Association of Educators. Is Debbie here? There you go. You want to stand so we can see you? You stand up there. Thanks so much for being here. No, I was wrong. They want you to stay seated. But anyway, I know that you had a statement and, maybe a comment and a question for our panel here about the issue of pay raises for teachers.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, good evening to all of you. Last spring, we saw a huge uprising of educators across the nation in 7 major states throughout the country. And they were protesting a lack of respect and also poor working conditions. And chief among those poor working conditions were low salaries. They feel as though they can't be middle-class citizens and support their families on what they're earning. We're beginning to see some of that play out in East Baton Rouge Parish. Currently, we're about $2,000 below the Southeastern Regional average. And I was wondering what you believe needs to happen in order to bring our educators up to the Southeastern Regional average so that they can earn a living that brings them a middle-class status and also helps them to stay in a profession that they love.
That's a real important issue. Dr. Runley, can you tackle that one first?
I would just start by saying, why do we want to limit ourselves to the Southern average? Let's be above average. Teaching is a profession that absolutely has value, and we need to pay our teachers as professionals. I think if you look at the work that's taking place in our schools right now and the demands on our teachers, they are absolutely earning that pay. And if you look at teacher shortage and teacher retention, part of the reason why people are leaving the profession is, number one, sometimes you have to feel like you're working for someone who you enjoy working with. Beyond that, you have to have a place where your voice is valued, and after that, it's a compensation package that makes sense. And so I think as system leaders, we have to make sure that we're taking care of all of those things, but we're going to need the public to help as well. We can only scrub our internal budget so much, so we're going to need our public to help as well.
So what do we do to try to make it more appealing for folks, pay-wise?
Yeah, well, I think, to echo what Kate just shared, is that we surveyed teachers in New Orleans recently, and it was surprising to see that pay wasn't the number one reason that they would leave the classroom. A lot of it was how they feel supported in their environment, feeling like their voice was being heard. My first 10 years of teaching, I worked 2 jobs. And for many educators, that was the norm, and in a lot of cases, it still is. I think what we have to do is listen to our teachers to see what ways can we incentivize them, whether it's monetary, whether it's other means, to really make them feel appreciated and supported in the classrooms. And then I think we also have to get businesses. There are small things that can be done. What about discounts for teachers on certain goods and items, or relief and help with maybe home ownership and those type of things. So there are many other avenues outside of just absolute pay that will mean a lot to teachers and show that they're valued and really help us to move the profession forward.
Lisa, did you have a comment?
Yeah, one of the concerns that I have for the residency is that there is no pay. So for a short term, we were able to pay our residents a stipend. to be in the classroom for a year, but that funding will end this year. So that's a whole year of working full-time with no pay. And my son is in a pre-med society and was excited after a meeting to tell me that, you know, Mom, when we do residency, we get $50,000. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. But my students aren't getting paid anything to teach for a year. And we are encouraging them to co-teach and to be very involved with student assessment. They're not just watching the teacher. So they are going to be teaching for no pay unless their school district offers a stipend, you know, to encourage them to work in that particular district.
So what do you think, Emily?
Well, I think that what I've been really trying to encourage teachers to do is sort of flip the narrative and like take charge of it and show our worth. Because it's true, yes, we love kids, we do. But I think a part that's always missing with teachers is in our voice, we sometimes fail to communicate that we are highly trained for the work that we do. It's not luck. Whenever I take 125 kids a year and I'm getting them, you know, and I'm helping them mature and I'm helping them to see their impact in the world and meet their test scores, that's a lot, and that comes from a lot of training, multiple degrees. We're really we're a highly educated profession, and I think that we have to start owning that it's not luck. We are skilled with data analysis. We are leaders. Everything we do, we're constantly learning, and that's huge. So that needs to be paid for, and I think that we need to do a better job of saying that. And on the other hand, I think that the lack of respect, I know that just kind of talking to teachers across the country, that's a big thing. And this is more anecdotal, but I had a poll that I sort of released for 630 responses that came back. And above the lack of pay was the lack of respect. It's real. We're not glorified babysitters. We're highly trained and highly educated, and we are very good at our jobs.
You know, my colleague, Paula Pendorfus, who has produced this hour for us, and I have done a lot of education pieces over the years, and we've talked to parents out there, a lot of parents out there. What do you say to parents to really instill in them the confidence that you guys are doing the best you can to put well-qualified teachers in front of their children? What would you say to that, Kate?
Well, you speak to parents all the time, and so in order to have a solid relationship with a parent, they have to have trust in the system. And so I think for that, communication is key. I think that for so long that we've been so humble as educators that we haven't wanted to tell our story and share our successes in the community. And so I think that we have to do a better job of sharing the success that we have in our schools, sharing the successes that we have with our kids and our teachers, and just be a champion for our kids and for our teachers with the messages that we're putting out in the public.
What do you say to that? Because, you know, I got to tell you, playing the devil's advocate here, there are those parents who say, we love our teachers, we really, really see it. And I've seen it just personally in the classroom, seen wonderful teachers. But there are some parents that I've heard say, you know, we're just not confident. We just really are not confident. I've heard them say they're just collecting a paycheck, which I'm sure pains teachers who are working so hard. So how do you get over that?
I think the way we get over it is like great school leaders and great educators communicate not only verbally, but by their actions. And, you know, parents are going to make decisions about schools, ideally, by the choices they make or whether they keep a kid in a school or not. And I think it's incumbent upon school leaders, teachers as well, but particularly administration to say, look, we understand what it takes to get a quality educator in front of your child each and every day. And that's the single most important thing that we can do. And so you constantly communicate with parents that we know what it looks like when we see great teaching going on. We won't accept anything less when we don't see that going on. And we realize that your child and your family don't have time to waste for us to get our act together as leaders and people who are responsible with educating your children. And so it's a frank conversation, but ultimately the actions will determine how strong that is and how real it is.
Okay, but the pay issue certainly, it seems to be something, though, that would attract people into the profession. So it's something that we would seem to really need to address. Certainly there is a demand for quality teachers everywhere, but the nonprofit organization that Patrick Dobard leads is focused on solving the problem in New Orleans, where 900 teachers leave the classroom each year. New Schools for New Orleans is trying to fill some of those vacancies through a partnership with Xavier University and charter school operators to recruit and develop teachers from other careers.
You know, there's this saying that you ought to be the change you want to see. That is why I decided, after 7 years of working with a wonderful nonprofit on the West Bank, working after school with students, working during the summertime with students, I decided it was time for me to go on ahead and make the, take the leap and see what it was like to be a full-time teacher.
Nicole Moliere shares her days co-teaching math with mentor teacher Charlie DiPietro at Harriet Tubman Elementary in Algiers. She takes evening classes at Xavier University, earning a Master of Arts in Teaching degree. After a second year teaching solo at Tubman with more classes at Xavier, she'll graduate and commit to 2 more years in a classroom at Tubman or one of its partner charter schools. Kenya Campbell is the program director for the Norman C. Francis Teacher Residency at Xavier. She believes the residency is better preparation than the traditional student teaching she experienced in her own training.
I think it gives teachers the experience that they need to be able to keep them in the classroom. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep teachers in the classroom, and when they're successful, they're more likely to stay. I think this experience, coupled with the coursework that they get from us, also with the year-long residency experience with their co-teacher, and then the networking that they get with the faculty and staff here, as well as their other cohorts, give them exactly what they need to be successful as teachers.
Send them some love, hands down, send love. You took away 1 10, so now you have how many 10s? Snap it up. And then you have how many 1s, Jalen?
DiPietro has been a curriculum coach for 2 years at Tubman and says his mentor-teacher role is a natural progression.
I think through mentorship programs like the one that Nicole and I are participating in, it's a really great way for people to get the experience of being in a classroom without feeling so much pressure in their first year to perform or to command the audience of 30 students staring back at them. So I think that by giving people an opportunity to ease into it is a really interesting way to get more teachers. Ms. Moliere, should we cross off of that 6 first, or what do you think?
I don't know, where are we borrowing from, Jean?
From the thousands? I'm so appreciative of the fellowship that we have and having Nicole in my room. I think it's been an awesome opportunity to be able to have someone who brings a whole separate career and life knowledge to a room where we can constantly push each other to grow and can constantly push the students in our classroom to reach really high academic standards.
I think programs like the Francis Residency are attempting to change the idea of what it means to be a teacher. To have people with a wealth of worldly experience come in and share that with students, come in and share that in a progressive type of school environment will, I think, appeal to folks who want a different, maybe alternative way to enter into the school system, rather than having started in your early 20s and get your degree as people traditionally do and become teachers. Those of us, people like me, who have had different careers, but who want to give back and who want to make a change, it allows you to come in at a pace that is conducive to learning. So not only are the students learning, but in a program like the Francis Residency, the people who are in the residency, we're learning too.
All right, Patrick, that's your program. So to understand it fully, you guys work with students who are actually education students, but you also work with mid-career professionals, right?
That's correct. This is the result of a long shot federal application that we applied for a couple of years ago. We actually didn't think we would receive the award. And then when we were awarded the $13 million grant, when I was told, I literally yelled. I was riding in my vehicle and I was like, yes! And what it is, it's really the first of a kind, as we're aware of in our nation. So we have Xavier University, which is our lead partner, historically black university, along with Loyola University. And we have that's traditional university partners, but we also have non-traditional programs like the New Teacher Project, TNTP, Teach for America, Relay Graduate School. And what we do is through that program, there's an intentionality of one, really making sure that we're recruiting high individuals, high quality individuals, whether they're in education or in other sectors, as we saw in the video, to come into education. But we also have a focus on increasing the number of people of color in the profession. And so over 60% of candidates that are in it are people of color, and recognizing that in many of the communities we serve, that's extremely important to have more educators that look like the children in front of the children. We're excited about the possibilities of it, and it's exciting because for so many years I had colleagues locally and nationally who would say that you can't reform colleges of education, so you should give up on them and just use the non-traditional venues. And the other ones, the non-traditional ones, they're like, oh, you know, they're not really good, they're not quality, and you just have to do the College of Eds. And what we're proving with this, it's not an either or, it's a lot of ands. You can have the non-traditional programs and you can have the university programs. Bottom line is we need to make sure they're quality. And so, you know, I'm excited. We have a wonderful team. We have great leadership at NSNO that's implementing this, and we're really excited about the partnerships that we have to ensure that we put quality educators in front of our children.
Trying to put more men in the classroom too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So I saw you when he was making that comment about colleges of education. You are with a College of Education, Department of Education at a university. I know you firmly believe in them and the fact that they can help produce quality teachers. Certification is an issue that is really important, right, in the career field. Does a teacher ultimately have to be certified in public education to be in that classroom? But to actually have a certification, be a certified teacher, because there are some that are not certified in the classroom, right?
I think so.
Is there much
charter schools, the charter school is part of the regulations as it relates to charter schools. Charter schools don't have to have certified teachers, but I believe almost 60% of charters that we've been able to survey just in New Orleans alone, they actually do have certified teachers. But you have to have a baccalaureate degree if you're not certified in a charter. But you know, certification, and we always have these conversations in education. You know, it's important to be certified. It's also important to be qualified, highly qualified, because you know there are times where that was like a pet peeve when folks would just tout their credentials, yet you weren't seeing those results. So I think, again, certification is extremely important. And then I think reviewings of certification programs are important as well to make sure that they're actually testing for what's really needed in the classroom today.
Well, it's what Kimberly said earlier. Teaching is a highly skilled profession. It's hard work. So not just anyone can walk in and become a teacher. So when you asked me about if certification is important, I think that it is, because that means that in some way, shape, or form, you've been trained for this highly skilled profession. So, you know, it's knowledge, skills, and dispositions, and all of that is incredibly important. So, you know, whether it's in a university setting or a non-university program provider, you are trained to become a teacher. You're not just walking into the classroom and assuming you could be a teacher because it looks easy. It's something that I think I can do.
But it's not easy.
Not easy at all.
It takes you just can't plan to walk in the classroom and teach.
That's right. And if you're doing it right, then you're working really hard. You're working late hours, you're working on the weekends and at night, preparing and grading and analyzing data and looking at all of the differentiation that needs to be done with the students that you have in your classroom. So it's important that teachers learn how to teach.
Also, I understand that basically with the shortage, it hasn't been so pronounced with elementary school teachers. It's been mostly in the secondary level, although I recently saw a quote from Doris Fauché, the superintendent of St. Bernard Parish, and also on Bessie Board, that she there in St. Bernard is now starting to see a problem also with elementary school teachers. So, Dr. Romney, you came from a rural district. You know, what sort of problems would you face there in terms of a teacher shortage?
Yeah, I think if you looked at the actual statistics, it would show you that we have enough people in Louisiana that can go in classrooms and teach. It's that so many people are choosing not to because they can earn a better living doing something else. If all of the people who were certified to teach in our state decided to go and teach, we would be fine, but that's not the case. I think what you find in rural areas or urban areas is really the same thing. Whenever you go into secondary math, secondary science, special education, English as a second language, your applicant pool is very small. Also, whenever you look at, for instance, Jefferson Parish with 50,000 kids, half of our kids are African American, yet only 6% of our teachers are African American male. And that's actually better than the national average. The national average is 2%. And so I tend to believe that our students of color need to see teachers of color in front of them. So in all of those areas, we have to find solutions.
In your role as the fellow, you are traveling around the state, and so you're going into urban areas and rural areas. What are you finding? What are you seeing?
Well, those areas are obviously part of the shortage, and it also seems that actually we have not really a saturation, but a fair amount in maybe early grades. So I think that understanding and maybe recruiting to the need is very, very important as well. And then to kind of support and add on, whenever it comes to really targeted and specific recruitment, no matter what the area, every student needs to see teachers of color as well and leaders of color. So I think that's very important, that even a rural area or an area that may not have or feel they need reflective diversity, we all need diversity. And I think that's an important thing, that with the intentionality of subject and rural and urban, that we also understand that now's the time to tend to all those needs, so we can keep that promise to our kids better for their education.
With it, regarding the rural areas, are there some accommodations being made there to put teachers in the classroom, because there is actually, just trouble in getting teachers in the classroom, like not having a mentor necessarily during that training year? Is that happening in rural areas?
So I think that really is a challenge, especially whenever you get up into like the northeastern section of Louisiana. They have a number of universities there in the northeast corner, but yet once you get into some of the areas along the river and on the Mississippi border, it's really hard and difficult, because those are poor areas for them to be able to staff their schools.
Okay, yet another challenge. Well, Kimberly Eckert is spending the year advocating for an education initiative of her own choosing. She's trying to grow a new crop of teachers from the ranks of high school students.
We're going to basically make the circle, okay?
This is Kimberly Eckert's Educators Rising class at Bruley High School in West Baton Rouge Parish. It's one of two education classes she teaches at Bruley. The other earns students college credit at Northwestern State University. Educators Rising is a nationwide movement that she's piloting in Louisiana to recruit high school students to teaching careers.
It's our job to identify them and to make sure that colleges are aware of them, so that we're recruiting teachers with the same effort and the same energy and the same vibrancy that we would recruit for college football. That's the way we need to go out and scout these kids.
I'm in this class because I want to be a teacher, and I'm learning the basic fundamentals of teaching and working with people. And there's not many careers where you get to affect someone so much and you get to really make yourself memorable to them. Miss Eckert, our teacher, had to go and kind of pick some people out that didn't really think they would be teachers, but now in the class, just a few weeks in, they can tell they really think this career is for them. And there's so many students everywhere who are like that, and if they just got exposed to this, they could really change their whole life and go for this career.
I'm in this class because Ms. Eckert saw potential in me to become a teacher, and I'm learning about a lot of different things. I'm learning about biased and unbiased, and how to be a teacher and actually make a difference.
I want to be the reason that a kid wakes up with a smile on his face wanting to go to school. That's what has evolved through this class all year, and it's only been 5 weeks. So that speaks volumes about just my enrollment and involvement in this class.
He had to use 2 boxes.
So Kimberly, you really see those kids and other kids like them throughout the state of Louisiana in our high schools as our future educators, and you really are focused on trying to get them interested.
Oh my gosh,
How
yes.
are they reacting to you with that?
Well, so it's a pilot in every sense, and so even kind of tweaking and shifting how I was targeting students. So I'm also a teacher at the school, and I'm a teacher. And so I know the kind of skills that it can all be taught, but we can identify what makes a strong teacher. Leaders, strong connections, creativity, curiosity, self-motivated to some degree, connections, problem solving, all these things. So there's students that are just natural leaders that I've come across, and they're on campus, and they're the ones that are building bridges, and that's what teachers do. And I think that to be able to go to a student who really doesn't know at 15 what they want to do with their entire life, that's intense, and we ask them to do that. And then you plant those seeds and you pull out these specific skills that make a good teacher strong. It's not rocket science, it's really not. it seems like a novel idea, but it makes sense that whenever you go to someone and you illuminate all of this power in them, and you're like, you know what? You would be, oh my gosh, phenomenal at this job. You should be in, and they're like, okay. So if I don't care if they give me the face, I teach freshmen. The face disappears, and then it becomes they're in there with me, and I think that that's a power. You heard the kids themselves; not all of them wanted to be a teacher, and now they do. Mic drop, like that's so good. Like we just need to show them what it's about.
So now in the state of Louisiana, we have the Jumpstart Career Pathway Program, but education is not, and I know that that's a beef of yours, a pet peeve, and you're really trying to get that changed. But Dr. Brumley, as a superintendent of a school, how do you do that with high school kids and putting them in an actual classroom? Would that work? Would you see that as a good Jumpstart Career Pathway?
Right, so in a former work I've done that. And so we were able to take our students in some of our high schools and actually give them the first 2 courses of their education pathway. And so they would enter the university with 6 hours of college credit in education. And so we were trying to build a pipeline of people to come home and work. We're in a situation now where I don't think, and don't take this wrong, Lisa, but I don't think we can rely alone on our universities to staff our schools. We have to look at that, but we also have to look at every other way of looking at who out there is creative, who's passionate, who's intelligent, who wants to be in front of kids and model being a lead learner. And we need to find ways that we can pipeline those people into our schools as teachers. And that's even from within the ranks of our schools, para-educators. Other people that work in support roles in our schools. Can we find ways to get those people degreed and into our classrooms in front of our kids?
Are you finding in higher education that you are getting students like this from high school programs?
Well, we're working really hard to establish those relationships, and I had a conversation with Kimberly a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things she said to me on the phone, which I love, is that we don't just want anybody in these future teacher classes or clubs or whatever format we create. We want the best and the brightest. We want this to be an exclusive club. I think you said that you limited your numbers, and then there were some students after who wanted to get in, and you said no, maybe next year. And I love that, because it is true that people need to begin to aspire to be teachers, because it's greatness. And teaching is the profession that creates all others. And I think that, we repeat that to our students daily. This is an incredible profession. You have incredible power to make a difference in the lives of your students and in the community by your hard work. So I love what you're doing, and we're looking forward to working with our districts to try to grow our own.
And one comment from you about this.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. It's great work that they're doing, and that they're trying to see that it grows. I mean, the earlier that you can really get a kid to really think that they'd want to be a teacher. I remember for me, I was like 12 years old, and I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. So from then on, I was always critiquing my teachers and like, oh, I would do that, I wouldn't do that, and like, there's no way you're going to keep this rule. And it's like to have like a formal setting where very early on, where people are like telling you like at 14 that we believe in you and see something in you, that's transformational. And if we can do that at a level of with a level of intentionality, we can see these gaps that we're seeing in these school districts close much more drastically.
Do you think we'll see it as a Jumpstart pathway?
I hope we do, and the urgency for me to continue to push that has really changed, and this is why. Because at the end of the day, we have like Jumpstart and we have like the top kids, right? And I teach all of them. And I noticed whenever I was recruiting for this class, either kids couldn't fit it, because we are trying to get dual credit for these courses.
Right.
They couldn't fit it because it didn't fit in their pathway. And that was very painful, especially when looking at the fact that I was trying to give a richness of diversity in that class. And it seems like the kids that were hit the hardest were the ones that perhaps we may not have always supported their learning, and that's exactly why we need them back in the classroom. So even if they end up at a community college and they have to go the long way, I want to stay with them from start to finish, but we have to allow, it should never be, I can't fit it in my schedule. I can't fit in changing the world by teaching in my schedule.
Okay, I know that you'll keep pushing for it.
Yes,
There's
I
no
will.
doubt I can see that. Another real big important issue is early childhood education. And Melanie Bronfman is in our audience, and we want to hear more from her about that. You're very involved in a commission, the a state commission to try to get more funding for early childhood education, to set criteria for quality educators in early childhood education. I believe Dr. Brumley is on the commission with you. So Melanie, what are you finding?
Well, although we have great challenges with teacher shortages, as we've heard so well, in K through 12, I'm afraid the bad news is that those challenges are even greater in early care and education. In the past, it's hard to believe, but for childcare, we did not even have a requirement in Louisiana that teachers have a high school degree. That has changed effective next year. We will soon have a requirement that at least all lead teachers in Type 3 early learning centers and child care centers have what we call a Child Development Associate Certificate, or CDA, which is a national certification that you can get with just a high school degree. But child care teachers in our state earn half of what a pre-K teacher in a school earns. So as difficult as the salary is for those teachers, you can imagine what it's like for a child care teacher. In fact, most of them earn little more than minimum wage with no benefits. No surprise, therefore, that turnover rates in child care are 40% for lead teachers in Louisiana and 50% for assistant teachers. And as you know, it's so important to have continuity of care for young children, and of course, this is the opposite of continuity of care. And our fear is that as we raise the quality, as these teachers get certified, then ironically, they're going to leave because we're going to exacerbate, we fear, the turnover rates, because they can then go into a school as a para and earn more and get benefits. So, given that childcare already costs parents of young children almost as much as a public college tuition, around $7,000 a year, and for children in our state birth to age 3, we have 2/3 of those children in Louisiana have both parents or they're single parent in the workforce. So they basically have to be in the care of someone other than their parents, which usually means childcare. So how do we solve this problem?
How do we? I'm going to go to you first, Dr. Brumley, because you're on that commission. What are you guys discovering?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm super passionate about this issue. I think that early childhood education, birth to 4, is the greatest educational challenge we'll face in our generation. I tend to think that strongly about this. And the reason I feel that way is because over half of the kids that we get coming into our public schools in Louisiana aren't what would be classified as kindergarten ready, which means they can't tell the difference between red and blue. They can't count to 10. They may not even know their own name, only their nickname that they've been called their entire life. And so the gap, research shows, between a child that comes to school from a middle-class family versus a child that comes to school from a low socioeconomic family is 30 million words. That means the child that comes to school from a middle-class family will have heard 30 million more words before they start kindergarten, as opposed to that other child, and that creates a tremendous advantage. And so I'm not worried about the advantage, I'm worried about the child that's disadvantaged. And so as much as we can, and I think this is gaining traction in the legislature, which is good, we need to invest in birth to 4. As much as we can, we need to invest in birth to 4. We catch up kids to some degree by 3rd grade. We catch up more by 8th grade. We catch up more by graduation. But we're so far behind when they come to us that it makes that exceptionally difficult. And so I just think until we as a community, as a region, as a state, and as a nation want to really tackle this issue and not just nibble around the edges, our society will not fundamentally change.
Well, funding certainly is a big question, but also a really big key point is having quality educators, quality instruction within early childhood education. Are you dealing with that, or are you guys working on that as well?
We're definitely dealing with it. We have in New Orleans the New Orleans Early Education Network, NOEN, which is working intently with also New Orleans Education Steering Committee in early childhood. And some of the numbers that I saw coming out of that, particularly for how much it would really cost, the true cost of educating 0 to 4, is just astounding. And so what I'm glad to see happening, what I think we need to continue to do is understand that if we don't financially support early childhood at a level that shows that, one, we can get quality educators in front of children consistently, and then two, really be able to have all of the other supports that's going to allow a child that's been disadvantaged from birth to be on par in 5th grade. We're going to continue to do what I call educational triage. The triage is we're getting these broken children at 5 years old and 6 years old, and it's just this vicious cycle. And so we have to continue to just look for ways to put more resources to develop those teachers.
And a real quick statement. I mean, the early childhood education, those formative years are so very important, aren't they?
I do think that's critical. At University of Holy Cross, we don't have an early childhood education program. We start at elementary, 1st through 5th. So.
Also very, very, very important, very crucial. Well, teaching and learning are not confined, though, to the classroom. A lot of it happens after school or over summer break. We want to tell you about something called YPQI, which aims to make New Orleans youth-serving programs more effective for the kids who participate.
This dance class looks like a whole lot of fun, but what happens at dancing grounds is so much more.
A big part of the reason that dancing grounds exists is because there's not enough arts in the schools in New Orleans. So we really see ourselves as filling a gap, particularly for students to have opportunities to express themselves creatively and express their own voice. Through movement, you can communicate all sorts of powerful things. And that way, it really is an extension of teaching from schools. And we also feel that it's really important to have a third space that's not home or school, where students can come and feel really welcome and like they have a community of peers.
Dancing Grounds is one of 34 out-of-school programs this year, improving its services with help from the Youth Program Quality Initiative. Rashida Govan of the New Orleans Youth Alliance leads YPQI.
So what we do is help organizations to learn basic standards for positive youth development programs, provide them with trainings called methods trainings to help them to enhance their skills as youth service professionals.
Youth-serving organizations like Dancing Grounds learn how to assess themselves, plus gain external reviews to develop plans to improve program quality.
What YPQI does is help them to figure out how to strengthen that model, how to make the folks that are in front of young people, their instructors and other people who are supporting young people, to learn how to do that role better. So instead of just being an artist or a dancer who is like performing and teaching performance, they're able to learn how to teach young people conflict resolution. They're able to teach young people how to express their ideas and be better decision makers. Youth voice, for instance, is one of the key areas that we focus on. And so Dancing Grounds figures out ways to, through the YPQI training, to include young people's voices and ideas more in productions and the design of their programs and implementation, and provide them with authentic choices.
Olivia and Derek Mumford are the parents of NOCA dance student Amira.
Amira is a very energetic, personality-filled little girl. She likes to express herself. She has lots to say. And Dancing Grounds has given her a platform for that, a place where she can feel safe to be herself, express herself. Dancing Grounds doesn't just perform the technical training. It also provides a platform where she can address and explore social justice issues, whether it's sexism or racism, and feel that she's empowered to make a change in those areas.
She's been with Dancing Grounds 5 years now, and it has definitely boosted her confidence and her ability.
There really is a difference in how young people are engaged in classrooms versus how they're engaged in out-of-school time activities. And when they're being enriched beyond the classroom, then you're going to see better gains for kids in the classroom. So I think that partnership, that collaboration is really essential to improving outcomes for kids.
Well, they do look like they're having fun, don't they? So, Kimberly, the teacher that you are, I mean, how important is it for kids to do those kinds of after-school activities? I mean, sometimes they're doing activities that are not necessarily like art and music, or not offered perhaps in their school.
Absolutely, and I don't even think we should limit that in my English class, I try to make it about what students want, because what is education? If we're not preparing you for life and we're not using what is already beautiful and amazing about you, what are we doing in that classroom? So I just have the biggest smile, and I love it. We need it because this is what life is, this is what living is, and it's education. And kids learn whether it's a teacher or not. They are teachers. Like, we're not the ones that have the market on learning. They're learning. Like, it's amazing.
What do you say, Kate?
Yeah, so if you just do the math, our families give us their kids for about 40 hours a week, but we give our kids back to the family and the community for 128 hours a week. And so the work that we do within the school system has to be excellent, but we cannot make the gains that we need without strong community partners that are helping us be fruitful with kids during those 128 hours a week. And so that's where we need so much support. And I don't know of a superintendent or principal or teacher that if someone came to their door and said, hey, we want to help be mentors, we want to love on kids, we want to adopt your school, that they wouldn't say, please come, when can you start? And so as much as possible, where we can get help in those 128 hours that they're away from us, we welcome that and we appreciate that.
Lisa, what do you think of the after-school programs, out-of-school programs?
I think it's wonderful. I think that kids need experiences beyond those that their families can provide for them. So after-school activities, community activities, field trips within the school day as well, all of those enrich their lives.
It's important to have just a holistic approach to education. I mean, it's all about providing quality life outcomes for young people. And the more that you can bring in those things outside of just academics, that's life. And so we're trying to prepare them for life.
And we're going to hear from some young people right now, because we've spent this hour talking about the need for more excellent teachers. But what are the qualities of an excellent teacher? So let's hear what some students have to say about that. And representing Jefferson Parish Public Schools, let us welcome Ashley Laws. She is a 10th grader at West Jefferson High School, there's Ashley, and a member of the Superintendent Student Leadership Council. So Ashley, what do you think? What makes a really good, excellent teacher?
Well, in my opinion, what makes a really good, excellent teacher is someone that provides quality instruction and includes and tries to engage all of his or her students in the learning process. A good teacher is also someone that cares about the well-being of all of his or her students, inside and outside of the classroom. A good teacher is somebody that knows when to step back and let the student apply what they've learned in the classroom to their work. A good teacher is also someone that helps the students realize their capacity and helps them grow to become the very best person that they can be.
That's great, Ashley. Thanks so much. And you are superintendent of
She's
her school system. You got to be proud.
She is brilliant and beautiful. So I'm just so thankful that she's going to be is on the superintendent's student council. You know, we have to give voice to students in our systems and hear what they have to say. And this is someone that we need to be recruiting to be a future teacher. So,
yeah,
Ms.
give her
Eckhart.
scholarships. See? It's easy.
What do you think, Ashley? Then beautiful thoughts, beautiful words, Ashley. From Orleans Parish Schools, we have Adam Poche, and he has been at Lusher since garden, now planning to study mechanical or environmental engineering in college. So Adam, hey Adam. So what do you think? What makes a really good teacher?
I think that excellent teachers listen as well as they teach and are patient. And I think that good teachers care about student success as students, but also maybe more importantly as people. And I think that excellent teachers always try to connect their lessons to real-world applications, because I know in my life that can make the lessons feel more valid.
What do you think? Comment from Adam? What do you think what he has to say?
Oh, I think that's spot on. I mean, if we're listening to them and they help to create an environment that's going to be conducive to their education, I think that's what it's all about. And because we're living in the real world, and if you just stay confined to those four walls in the classroom and don't really hear what the students are asking for, we're missing opportunities. And so it seems like he's got a sense of agency about his education, and all children should feel that way.
Great comments, Adam. Thank you so much. Representing the Plaquemines Parish Public Schools is Nicole Casio, senior at Belle Chase High School. Nicole? Where do I see Nicole? There is Nicole. So for you, the qualities of an excellent teacher.
I would say the qualities that make an excellent teacher are the patience to continue helping students that don't understand the lessons they're being taught, the flexibility to explain concepts in multiple ways and to adapt to students' different learning styles and needs, the empathy to be able to relate to their students and understand any problems their students might have, and the compassion to help students in any way they can.
So what do you think about the thoughts of these great students, what teachers should be?
Yeah, that's it. And I
really did.
There's nothing left to say. We know how we want to be taught, and I think that the more we listen to students, it solidifies that message. They know, and we know. We just need to make sure that we're recruiting that and ensuring that they continue to have that, regardless of zip code is the highest quality.
Well, listening to these teachers, definitely, they're setting the bar high. And definitely being a teacher is not an easy thing. We know a lot of hard work. So, for you, some final thoughts then after this discussion. Why should anybody think about going into education? It is hard work. Students are expecting a lot. They need a lot. Why? What would you say, Lisa?
It's incredibly rewarding. You're educating hearts and minds. You're making a difference in your students and their families and the community by the work that you do. It's nothing like it.
Dr. Bromley?
So everyone's time on earth is limited, right? And so here's the deal. Whenever I'm close to that point, if I have the opportunity to know when that point is coming, I don't feel that I'll have regrets because I worked in this space. And I think that I have an opportunity to leave a legacy, and I have a responsibility to do that.
I think there's no other profession that someone can go into and basically say that I changed someone's life. Think about how powerful that is. People may go to chemical plants each day and they may work on products, they may sell products. But when you can say that you changed someone's life by your interaction with them, I can't think of a single most rewarding profession other than education.
Kimberly?
I feel like if you want to be inspired every single day of your life, if you want to empower hundreds of people, of human beings your entire life, if you want to ensure a civil society, a democratic society, and if you want to every day be in the room where it happens, you should be a teacher.
Okay, good reasons why. Quick note, if you want to find out more about what we have been discussing this evening, you can go to WYES.org for resource links. So I want to thank this panel for this absolutely wonderful discussion. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in tonight. Thanks to our great audience here in the studio. And thank you for the work that so many of you guys do in education. But a special thanks to our students, all of our students who are scattered throughout the audience, because this is really all about you, to provide you the best education possible so that you're able to pursue a bright and productive future. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. Have a good evening. Thank you, folks.
Teaching for Excellence, a WYES community forum, made possible by Baptist Community Ministries.